In a professional environment, everybody has happened upon somebody that could only be described as incompetent at least once. Worse yet, many people have encountered management and leadership unable to complete their own tasks, and that's kind of the tale of the story that we're going to be exploring today. But of course, in the world of Starfield, an incompetent cafe manager is one thing, but when you're on a space station and the management is poor there, should the worst happen, the results can be utterly devastating. And that is exactly what happened on Starstation RE939. But not to worry, it does come with a little bit of a twist, if you could call it that, so we'll hop in our ship and begin, shall we? Starstation RE939 can be found orbiting the moon Voss in the Alpha Centauri system. However, today's video actually begins in the city of New Atlantis on the planet Jemison in the same system. When you first arrive on the city, down the ramp from the landing pad, we can happen upon this conversation.
I can assure you this unprovoked attack on a United Colonies research facility will not go unanswered. We'll get you settled into your new assignments as soon as possible. For you, Bobby, that includes meeting your new foster parent.
My parents aren't dead. They just took a different shuttle. I'll see them when they get here.
Oh, well, of course, that's sure possible. We'll just...
Helena Chambers, ID SSCOM 1327 HCHA. I was the station administrator. I'll need to report to MAST ASAP for a full debrief. My treatment thus far has been entirely unacceptable.
Any authority you had was forfeit the moment House Varun zealots breached the station's perimeter, and you failed to initiate proper evacuation protocols. Thank you for your service. We'll find you a new position commensurate with your experience. And Mr. Bosch, let me just say how honored I am to meet you. By all accounts, you're the only reason anyone made it out of there alive.
Well, just glad I still remembered my flight basics. It had been a while. So was shooting a gun.
It comes across as a nice bit of world building to bed you into New Atlantis, and the idea that characters in this universe exist even when you're not looking at them and experience things that you do not, which is kind of how it works in effect. But of course there's more to this. We can't learn anything by talking with Helena Chambers. In fact, attempting to interact with her will result in her disgusted by the concept of having to interact back.
What? No, just, go away. She can't do this to me. Does that woman have any idea who I am? Not now.
Maybe she's having a bad day, who knows. But Ricardo Bosch, on the other hand, more than happy to have a chat.
Guess you caught some of that, huh? The galaxy is at peace and somehow seems more dangerous than ever. Spacers, House Varun, Crimson Fleet, everyone trying to grab their piece. How can you not look up to the cosmos and just be overwhelmed by its beauty? So much possibility, so much hope. Even despite recent events. I was the lead researcher on the station that got attacked. It was business as usual until those House Varun crazies swarmed in, spouting their scripture or whatever it was. Even the Marines were overwhelmed. Honestly, I'm just lucky to have made it out of there in one piece. We all are.
So this early in a playthrough, the question that springs to mind is, House Varun, what's that?
Not what, who. How to describe House Varun? Well, imagine a bunch of colonists who set off into the stars ages ago, disappeared, and then re-emerged as a sort of religious society. Faction, or cult, whatever you want to call them. They believe in some sort of celestial deity called the Great Serpent. Real nightmare fuel kind of stuff. About 100 years back, they picked a fight with pretty much everyone in the settled systems. We eventually made peace, sort of. Then they just disappeared. They're out there somewhere, or so folks assume. The ones that attacked us, they were the hardliners for sure. You meet those guys, you run. You understand me?
So we learn that these three were on a star station that was attacked by fanatics of House Va'ruun. And apparently, due to Helena Chambers not following appropriate evacuation protocols, only a handful of people survived. This child's parents seemingly not included.
At first, I thought it was ecliptic mercenaries shooting at us, but it wasn't. It was these other people yelling about serpents and stuff. Yeah, it was like, snakes and serpents will eat you all! Rah, the stars will squeeze you! Rah, or something like that. I think they need psychiatric help.
At first, many players may not even realise the star station in question is a location that can be visited. I certainly didn't. But of course it is, it's Starstation RE939, orbiting the moon Voss in the same system.
Communications system critical. Hail terminated.
If House Va'ruun fanatics are indeed on board, it would appear they've either sabotaged the communications or don't know how to respond to a hail. But with the proven benefits of docking, we can verify that they are indeed still on board, along with plenty of human remains which they appear to be in the process of disposing of. Yes, shove them in the bin, that will solve it. The bodies comprise of guards and scientists by the looks of it. Not that it especially matters, they appear to have been killed indiscriminately whilst they tried to escape. It's unclear why these zealots attacked this star station in particular, but I feel as if religious zeal is the best answer we are going to get, as House Va'ruun in general is a secretive society that operates outside of the boundaries of where we can actually go in the game. They share a hostile history with the United Colonies and Freestar Collective, and still hold on to some of those hostile beliefs, even if the actual overt hostilities no longer take place officially. And that is where these zealots come in. Anyway, with the docking area and this storage area cleared, let's move on to the rest of the facility. The upstairs door appears to lead to a control center, where another Va'ruun zealot is standing watch. Where another Va'ruun zealot was standing watch. There's only one person in this room, which gives us leave to search it, allowing us to find this computer, labelled the command computer, and has 3 different things for us to read. The team goals, which are to establish culture, perform audit of all activities on the star station, tighten budget and accounting, and improve documentation. Then there's a document about the Spectre management, and reads as follows. As administrator, it's important to establish the right culture. These are lessons I learned when earning my master's in business administration, as well as during the development of the Spectre management system. As management, it's our job to supervise aggressively, provide the relevant feedback, engender the appropriate amount of fear so they correct their behaviour and train their minds to expect your presence. Lastly, repeat the process. Using Spectre management, our researchers will be looking over their shoulder at all times and subsequently correct their behaviour on their own. Helena Chambers, MBA, Chief Administrator of Starstation RE939. So Helena Chambers probably wasn't just having a bad day. This document also suggests that she might be a bad boss. As long as she does her job well, I guess it's livable, but
Any authority you had was forfeit the moment House Va'ruun zealots breached the station's perimeter, and you failed to initiate proper evacuation protocols.
that doesn't sound like a job well done to me. In fact, the 3rd document on this management computer, if you will, is about evacuation drills. It reads, as you may have heard, we are changing our evacuation protocols. Lieutenant Abreu will brief all of you with the details. As long as I am the head of this star station, the safety of management and high-ranking officials will remain a priority, and the changes are designed to ensure that outcome. Helena Chambers. Well, that doesn't sound encouraging. In the event of a crisis, aren't the ones in charge the ones you look to for direction? I'm not entirely sure what use she would have been based on the limited information we know, but so far the picture painted is that she didn't even bother to try. On top of that, we learn through her Spectre management that she's something of a bully, Anyway, to learn more, we'll need to clear out the remainder of the Va'ruun Zealots from the star station, which shouldn't take too long. It's not an awfully massive place. And that will now allow us to explore the facility freely, albeit with an even larger population of dead people. We'll make some interesting discoveries exploring the downstairs area, mostly addressing things we already know. This station's primary function was scientific research, specifically the study of alien biology, with a wing dedicated to plants and another to animals. So it's mostly a peaceful star station that posed no threat to House Va'ruun, and yet the facility was supplied security by the United Colonies, and yet despite their presence, the station still fell to the Zealots. As far as the work areas on the downstairs are concerned, we can open the doors, releasing the animals for us to have to shoot them, which is nice, and the same can be done for the plants. But to find more information on what's going on here, we'll need to head to lab number 3, where on the research lab computer there is all sorts for us to read through. Most of it pertains to the actual research that was going on here, and from what I can tell, it was rather insignificant, at least with regards to today's topic, but there is a discussion forum, including a message about Administrator Chambers from Ricardo Bosch, the other survivor. I've received the notes regarding Helena Chambers, and I'll do my best to address all your concerns at our next meeting. I do understand why it can be difficult to have someone without a scientific background making decisions on the research, but please remember that at the end of the day, we are all pulling on the same rope. And then there's a quick couple of messages about a species referred to as VP0184. At first I thought these messages weren't too relevant, but then I read them carefully. The first one reads, "Hey guys, not to be a worrywart, but I am slightly concerned about the psychoactive properties of species VP0184 and the potential for involuntary abuse. I'm no snitch, but I have noticed a couple of really bizarre proposals as of late, including this one about xenodigestion. Not to call anybody out, but who cares how long a person can survive inside some predator's stomach? This isn't the best use of massed resources, guys. I'm sure Ricardo would agree. But the response is where things get interesting. This might be a coincidence, but the day after we discovered the psychoactive properties of that particular flora, Dr. Baines described this incredibly bizarre dream about being devoured by a snake. But you know how private he is about his research. I didn't push the issue because it's none of my business, and because honestly, Dr. Baines scares me." Anonymous. Now that is interesting, because House Va'ruun believe in a deity known as the Great Serpent, and they believe that you either worship this Great Serpent or you will be devoured by it once it encircles the universe. Could that be a coincidence, considering this star station was attacked by House Va'ruun zealots? Furthermore, it also reminds me of what the child that survived the star station's attack said.
Yeah, it was like, "Snakes and serpents will eat you all, rah, the stars will squeeze you," rah, or something like that.
Granted, the child's account is anecdotal and likely heavily paraphrased, but in combat, House Va'ruun zealots do spout an awful lot of serpent-related scripture. So it is interesting that before their attack on the station, one of the researchers aboard RE-939 experienced a bizarre dream about being devoured by a snake after discovering a plant's psychoactive properties. Was the plant telling him the future? If so, how? Or could there be more to this great serpent malarkey? But could this vision be the reason behind the questionable experiments on how long a human can survive after being swallowed by an unknown carnivore? At this computer we can learn though that VP0184 has psychoactive properties in the leaf lamina which can be activated when combusted. So I guess the chances of being exposed to it are fairly high. And then there are also research notes to determine if a human can survive ingestion and extraction from a species known as CV82, with evidence to suggest that experiments did indeed take place, concluding that it's possible that humans could survive being ingested by species CV82 for up to 16 hours. It appears as if this doctor is entertaining experiments regarding House Va'ruun's Great Serpent, or at least he was until zealots showed up and killed more or less everybody, and then we showed up and killed all of them. But perhaps the most interesting implication of all is this plant appears to give the momentary power of foresight, predicting a Va'ruun Zealot attack, even if only with clarity in hindsight. That said, I do feel there could perhaps be a more obvious answer. But that's going to require us to push a bit further on, because we haven't necessarily sapped this star station of all the information it has to offer us. The search for more information will take us upstairs to a residential area. In one of the rooms we will find another computer that might shed some more light on what actually happened here. This residential computer has two topics of interest, the first of which is family matters, which can help shed some more light in the kind of person we have in dealing with Helena Chambers. And that is a chain of emails regarding children on the station, which begins with an email from Dr. Potapenko that reads as follows. I'm worried about the long-term effects of space living on my children, but if I send them back to New Atlantis, I'm concerned about the time apart. I am wondering about the possibility for additional time off, using maternity leave as a reason. Chambers responds with absolutely not. We are on a strict schedule that has been planned years in advance. An extended absence from any of the scientists will create a cascading effect that could cause delays or halt research entirely. The response to that was, with all due respect, Administrator, I've already talked to several colleagues who have agreed to support the department in my absence. Also, I hate to bring this up now, but I have an offer to work at a private lab on Jemison. I won't hesitate to accept for the sake of my children. And of course, Helena Chambers won't take kindly to that, responding with, is that a threat, Doctor? Let me remind you that New Atlantis is governed by the United Colonies, and public or private, one phone call from me is all it takes to make you the galaxy's most overqualified barista. And as for your colleagues agreeing to this idea, they do not make that call. I do. So, Chambers' response to raised concerns regarding the long-term toll of Starstation living on the children of staff is met with a threat to ruin somebody's career, and by extension, their life. Helena Chambers isn't exactly cultivating friendship amongst her underlings here, is she? There's also a topic in here regarding evacuation drills. I just want to remind all residents that starting this week we will be performing emergency evacuation drills. With the new shuttle, previous protocols are no longer valid. Lieutenant Abreu. Anyone else annoyed by how confusing these drills are? Not to mention, it's all just theatre. I feel like I'm literally in an elementary school production. Just show me a map and tell me where the exit is. Alan Archer. The next two messages appear to be from the House Va'ruun Zealot attack. The first one reads, the alarm is sounding and people are dead. I suspect we'd all be, but Dr. Bosch fought off the attackers and bought us some time. Still, it won't be long before they breach the doors, and so the few of us remaining are making a mad dash to the warehouse shuttle. I told Bobby to find Administrator Chambers. I had a feeling she'd flee rather than adhere to the new protocols, and given her personal protection detail, I assumed that would be the safest place for him. But now, I don't know. Dr. Bosch says Helena's missing, and he's staying behind to look for her and Bobby. Martha, forgive me, I'm such a fool. Dr. Bosch promised he would find our boy, and I have no choice but to believe him. I've got to find Martha and get her to the evacuation port before it's too late. Philip Katz. Bobby is of course the child we met upon our arrival in New Atlantis. And finally there's an email from Avery Lee to his sister Samira. We're being boarded right now. Everyone's rushing to the shuttles, but I'm not leaving without my sister. If you're reading this, Samira, meet me in the storage closet. I know things look bleak, but we'll figure something out. I love you. And indeed, in the storage closet next to the administration center, we can find a body. Anyway, it is clear the evacuation protocols proved useless and everything went to shit when it counted. As a result, the loss to life was utterly catastrophic. It's clear that Helena Chambers was not fit to lead, being an arrogant bully and a coward, not to mention completely underqualified to spearhead scientific research. So no doubt her disorganized leadership shares some blame for the disaster that occurred here, or at least the extent of the disaster that occurred here. But she didn't actively invite House Va'ruun on board the star station, so there's more at play here. In this room, there is a slate that may possess more information for us. It transcribes a short conversation between a Dr. Mullins and a Dr. Aldred that shifts onto a discussion about Dr. Baines. The relevant portion reads, "Have you talked to Dr. Baines yet? I'm putting it off for now. I'm hoping Mast will kill his funding. Fingers crossed for you. Did you know the other day he called me a penitent? I had to look the word up. I'm still not sure if it's an insult. If Dr. Baines said it, it's probably a threat." Now that's a weird one. To be penitent is to be sorrowful, regretful. The mental gymnastics of how this can be constructed as either an insult or a threat are lost on me, but everything we know about Dr. Baines so far paints the picture of an unusual guy, another unpopular character aboard RE-939. He's secretive about his work. He also appears to be quite disliked and deemed scary. On top of that, he had a dream about a snake eating him, and that event preceded an attack by House Va'ruun zealots, who hold fatalistic beliefs that a great serpent will devour the unworthy. That leads to a big question. Was he gifted the benefit of foresight, or did he know more than he was letting on anyway? It appears as if Baines is a bit of an odd duck. You see, an obscure bit of House Va'ruun lore is that they do indeed send agents out into the cosmos to integrate with the other societies of the settled systems. For example, within Constellation, Andrasia is an agent of House Va'ruun on such a mission. What these missions entail depends entirely on what the homeworld needs, though they cannot return home because they do not know the way until their mission is complete. Now, it is unclear how endorsed the zealots of House Va'ruun are within the main faction, though according to Andrasia, the zealots twisted the teachings of Va'ruun and are very much so a separate entity. That said, her companion mission casts doubt on her understanding of the complexities of her own society. In other words, she believes what she's been led to believe, and her companion mission makes it clear that that's not necessarily the entire truth. What I'm getting at is perhaps Dr. Baines is one such inside man for the House Va'ruun zealots at least, and though there's scant evidence for that, it makes more sense than foresight in my mind, and would also explain why Dr. Baines would come across as a little, if not very odd, to the other doctors aboard the Starstation. Because, as it turns out, Andrasia has a very similar role within Constellation, albeit with better intentions, I guess. Anyway, the idea makes a bit more sense than being able to see the future. But that's enough of barking up that particular tree for now. In the upstairs living areas, we can find the security room, inside which there is, of course, the security computer and this magazine. Anyway, the computer has yet more interesting details for us, starting with a topic about emergency shuttles that reads in order as follows. I've managed to convince the higher-ups to increase the emergency shuttle count. Hopefully we never use them, and it ends up being the extreme waste of resources they claim it to be. Signed, Lieutenant Blue. I looked over the new evacuation protocols, and why are some of the administrative officials given priority, even over the children? Guys, I understand the importance of safeguarding leadership, but yo, what are we really doing here? This is not in line with UC guidelines. Ensign Samuel. To which a Blue responds with, I get your concerns, Ensign, believe me, I do. But in order to get the extra ship, I had to appeal to the brass's need for self-preservation. Yes, officials will be given a security escort to the new shuttle, while everyone else will need to bear arms and reach the warehouse port. I understand this isn't a popular decision, but it's Administrator Chambers' call. All we can do is try to make the best of it and use the drills to prepare everyone on the station. It appears Chambers deems those she supervises to be beneath her. Should the worst happen, she's more important than they are, and Abreu had to appeal to that in order to get an extra shuttle. Anyway, moving on, we have a topic about security cuts. Hey guys, I know everyone on the security team is working super hard and it's much appreciated, but I got an itch that needs scratching, so I gotta ask, is it me or has security gotten lighter on the station? I know we're still in UC space, but is anyone worried we might be a little exposed out here? Dr. Fernando Pena. Hey Fernando, I noticed that too. I think Helena mentioned something about having us undergo firearm training, which some of my team rolled their eyes at. I don't mind it myself, although I will point out there's children on this station, and I don't want them mistaking a sidestar for a toy. Dr. Nikola Medvedenko. I understand both of your concerns and I wish I had more information for you, but the recent security cuts were not a budget decision, and Administrator Chambers is not to blame. 2 of my Marines actually got engaged, Emma and Hiroki, and decided they were tired of station life. We'll be bringing in replacements soon, but MAST needs to vet the hires. Lieutenant Abreu. Well, that's nice, but what we got from this chain is there are some cuts to security, or at the very least it is understaffed for the time being, and on top of that the station staff seem to expect to blame Administrator Chambers for all of it, as if things being her fault is the norm. It appears as if the vast majority of the staff on board RE-939 don't respect Administrator Chambers, and it's not like Chambers appears to have done anything to change that. The final topic on this computer revolves around shift changes, specifically within the station's security, and reads as follows. Everyone keep in mind, with Emma and Hiroki's sudden departure, we're going to need everyone to work extended shifts. I apologise for this, but the safety of this star station is one thing we can't compromise. That's ironic. This will only be for a week. MAST is currently vetting several new hires to replace them. Lieutenant Abreu. Ensign Pascal responded with fine by me, so long as we get paid. However, Ensign Wanamaker states, I disagree with Ensign Pascal, Lieutenant. This isn't about pay, it's about our ability to defend the station. We're stretched thin as dental floss here. And Abreu was left to respond with, I understand your concerns and I'm working with the administrative team to improve our evacuation protocols. We'll also be having a number of drills to practice. The scientists may complain, but it's for their own good. So the understaffing problem led to security having to work longer shifts. They were spread thin, and as a result they were exhausted and unlikely to be as effective and as sharp as they would be if they had the correct numbers and weren't being overworked. And that might explain why, despite having security, the star station was overwhelmed by House of Va'ruun zealots. Problems going unaddressed appears to be a recurring theme aboard Starstation RE939. Lieutenant Abreu always has to respond to concerns with lip service because he simply has nothing else to offer. The administration aboard the station weren't interested in resolving the issues, and as embodied with Helena Chambers, they were ignorant to the processes of the research they were meant to be supervising. On top of this, something they were up to somehow drew the attention of the House of Va'ruun zealots. Now, it's entirely possible that they just simply chose somewhere to attack. They can be rather indiscriminately hostile when encountered in the open world, for example. That, or they had some connection to the research here, or maybe even the mysterious Dr. Baines I mentioned, and perhaps there's more to that somewhere that I'm not aware of. But simply put, when the attack happened, the star station was completely unprepared, and with the leadership saving themselves in Helena Chambers, the remaining disorganized, disjointed mess resulted in a bloodbath, with the only survivors being Administrator Chambers, Ricardo Bosch, who might send you to the station to retrieve his data slate, which is like 2 short paragraphs of information a man of his intelligence could easily just remember. And of course, the now orphaned young boy Bobby. Was Helena Chambers responsible for the entire mess? No, arguably she didn't invite the House Va'ruun zealots on board, unless she did somehow. But were she even remotely competent at her job, maybe the casualties sustained would be far less devastating. And it seems as if this Brooks, who was conversing with this small group of survivors, is well aware of that.
Thank you for your service. We'll find you a new position commensurate with your experience.
So to top this video off, I suppose, we should find out what Helena Chambers' new role is. I think you'll find it to be very poetic. In New Atlantis, we will need to head to Terra Brew Coffee. Here we will find Administrator Chambers enjoying her new role.
I keep telling them I am a manager. I should be managing.
Yeah, sorry. Well, manager, do you think you can manage to make a premium cappuccino with double dairy and no whip?
I don't appreciate your tone. And no, I will not make whatever it is you just said. Because this place is a disorganized mess. What you asked me to do is literally impossible.
Oh, I understand impossible. Fine. You want to organize? There's some up in the back. See if you can't organize a little floor cleaning operation.
Outrageous.
It appears she has become the galaxy's most underqualified barista. Not that she actually does anything, she sort of stands there with her arms folded.
Do I look like a barista to you?
But it is certainly a fall from grace. Not that there ever was any, but it does appear to be karma at play. Based on the information we know, it does seem quite satisfying. The only question that remains regarding Starstation RE939, of course, is why did House Va'ruun attack? And unfortunately, I don't claim to possess that information. But you'd think there would be a reason, as Voss, the moon that Starstation 939 is orbiting, is in the same star system as Jemison, the planet on which one can find New Atlantis, the heart of the United Colonies. Maybe they're just mental and don't care, and believe me, it's not off the table. But what reason would a group like that possibly have to take such a risk? And did they have inside help in the form of Banes? And I have no real substantial basis for suspecting that possibility. I mean, aside from the dream about being consumed by a snake before the station was sacked by religious fanatics who worshipped a snake that they believe will consume the non-believers. And as sad as that is that I can't bring answers to those questions, whether through ability or the absence of information, it is of course satisfying to see Helena Chambers settling into her new employment, far away from the management of anything remotely significant. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope it's been agreeable at least. Thank you all for watching. I do really hope that you've enjoyed this one. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that stuff if you want to, of course. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, please take care and goodbye.